at school, at work, get credit for working in school. So I got a job. My first job was at Grants, WT Grants. They were one of the first companies to go bankrupt and go out of business. But I worked in the sewing department and the yarn department. And I got credit for working with textiles and stuff like that for my sewing class. And then my next job was with Thrift Drugs, who now is also out of business, so I think there's something going on here. But and then I worked with Thrift Drugs my senior year of high school, and then I worked the 2 years I went to college at Gloucester County, and then I actually worked full time, and I went to school too, because I went to class until like 1 something, and then drove down the road and started work at 3 o'clock and worked till 10. Then I think what else? Then I went to Ecker Drugs because I had gotten engaged to my husband, and we both worked in the same store, and they were afraid it was a conflict. So they were looking at changing me to another store, but they hadn't done it yet. And so I went looking for work, and I found a job with Ecker Drugs. So I went there because there I could be a manager of the store. I was only allowed to be assistant manager at Thrift Drugs. So I went from being assistant manager at Thrift Drugs to a manager in the Eckerts. Worked for them for 3 or 4 years. Had my first son, and it was very hard working retail and having a child at the same time because I didn't get home sometimes until like 11 o'clock at night with him. And so I end up looking for a job or make at least enough money because I paid the utilities and our car insurance and the payment for my car, and food, and his paying for his daycare too. So I need to make enough money to do that. So I got a job with a bank down in Delaware, at the bank in New York, and I worked there for from 1989 until 96. During that time I had 3 more children. The last 2 were twins, and when my daycare provider, who was my mother, who I paid to watch my children, informed me that she was no longer going to watch my children because my youngest 2 were getting ready to walk, I had to find something that I didn't have to put them in daycare anymore. So I got a job delivering papers and did that for a little over a year. And then someone had asked me about would I watch children in my home. So I looked into it, got my register as a daycare provider in my home, and started a daycare business and had that going until March of 2013, when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's like 2 months before that, and it was totally I had to stop working, and the parents I had at the time decided I should stop working too, so they pulled the children out of my daycare, so I ended up having to close down, and I'm just a stay-at-home mom now.
What type of responsibilities did you have with your jobs?
Well, since they were all retail jobs, no matter what level I was at in the store, you did ordering, you did putting merchandise out that you ordered, straightening, basing and straightening they called it, where you brought everything forward the newer stock went behind the older stock. In those days you had to price everything, put little price tags on stuff because we didn't have the little scanners yet. They did come into being towards the end of my retail years, but in the beginning, no. You had to run a register, and then when I became a manager in the thrift drugs and in Eckers and stuff, I had to do counting drawers, basic accounting, closing out the registers is what they called it, and you counted the drawers down to a base, either $50, $75, $100, depending on how busy the store was. You made sure that people weren't stealing. You were responsible for watching for theft. Not only with the people that worked there, but people that came in shopping. Towards the end of my retail years, I unloaded trucks and set up displays and redid aisles and the whole bit. They would decide to change it over to store, and you had to change everything all over. And then when I went to the bank, I worked. Originally, I started out answering letters because it was a credit card division. So we got letters from people who had problems with their credit cards. So you answered the questions and you helped them with the problems. Then I went into the phone part of that, and people actually called in, and you answered the questions or directed them to the correct areas that they needed to be at. And then at the end, I was working in credit card area where we call people asking why they hadn't made their payments, and it was very very interesting because the bank I worked for had a credit card. It was for teachers at the time, and a lot of teachers did not pay their bills in the summertime when they were off from school, and they would tell you, I can't pay you because I don't get paid. And we would come back with, but you don't get paid in the summertime, so why did you go buy stuff last week knowing you weren't going to be able to pay for it when you got billed for it? And do you realize you're going to get a late charge and your credit's going to be messed up because you're going to be, by the time they made a payment in September, they were 3 months late. And that's what I ended up with. And then I went to work for myself doing daycare, and basically that was just make sure your house was safe and clean, and make sure all your kids were taken care of and all their stuff. I do feel like I missed out on a bunch of stuff with my kids because I couldn't go to things because I was working with children, watching children during the day. So, but hopefully they turned out all right.
Technology in retail has progressed to the point where the computer does all the work for you. What type of things did you have to do by yourself